Still pretty cold and still very windy. But one person who does not mind the cold, who actually revels in the cold, is Oz. So Oz is our snowy owl, and she loves the cold. In fact, in the summer, she has more of a stress out because she gets too hot. And so we kind of have to put ice packs, etc. in her aviary for her. But in this weather, she's absolutely in her element. After my winter drought video the other day, we have had the tiniest amount of rain, but it hasn't been enough to fill up the water butts. So as you saw, I'm still having to bring bottles of water up for the animals. And is often the case at this time of year. It's warm enough to want to get out and do stuff, but it's still too cold really to get things properly growing. So we're not doing major projects. I'm trying to do little things every day to make steps towards the greater farm. One of the areas I keep working on gradually is this front entrance area where the pigs are. And I put in 2 raised beds which are full of daffodil bulbs. This one you can see not a lot's happening, and that's because I actually put the daffodil bulbs in about 3 weeks after I planted the other one, which is here. And you can see there's quite a difference, and in fact some of these bulbs are already starting to get flowers on. I can't remember the varieties and which way I put them in. I think this was a smaller variety, hence perhaps why it's all come up with its bulbs, with its flowers all ready to go. We've started to put in the fence line along here, though I still need to finish the fence down there, and we haven't put in the gates which will go across here. But one thing that I picked up the other day from our local co-op actually are fruit trees. Now Co-op actually have quite a good bargain on fruit trees at the moment. They're $6.99 each, or 2 for £10. So I picked up 4. They're the Deary brand. I got a pear, I got a cherry, I got an apple, and I got a plum. And like with the other trees that we're planting along this fence line, I'm going to put them in today. So the trees come bare rooted, which means they're just in bags, not in pots. Cut this tag off, and actually, as I thought they were bare rooted, they have actually got a little bit of compost wrapped in here. So I'll do that. It makes it quite difficult. Well, no, they are bare rooted. I think they've just been packed with some compost to keep in the moisture, which is a very good idea. Now with these bare rooted trees, you just want to dig a square hole, because a round hole encourages the roots to continue to go around. A square hole means the roots hit the edge and then start to burrow through. And though I used to put in compost to the hole, I no longer do, because I feel like if there is poor soil and then a nice heap of lovely compost in the middle, the roots just grow in that lovely compost. They don't want to reach out and find nutrition. So I will literally just dig a squarish hole, pop this in. I'll add this because it's the material that the root has been sat in, and then we'll wait for some warmer weather and for shoots to appear. you might think these trees are far too close together, and you can see I haven't left a lot of space. However, they are not going to be allowed to become big trees. Once the growing season starts and we've got the fence in, I'm actually going to prune them so they're more of an espaliered tree, so I can access the fruit really easily without them getting a huge amount of height. And that allows you to pack in a lot more trees and fruit bushes than you ordinarily would. So they're in, and there is a couple more things to do. Adding a bit of straw mulch just helps knock out the weeds and keeping the moisture. It is super windy here though, so I'm expecting most of this to blow away and I will have to do it again. But it will help these get off to a good start. It's at this time of year the first inklings of spring start to appear. Like here, this elderberry has just got its first little shoots on it. And if we walk up past the pheasant pens, which are here, we have our goji berry, which I've yet to decide where to put. But again, we have the very first little green buds appearing. And along this patch is where I tend to put bulbs that I'm sent from you guys, because I don't like to use those in my cut flower garden. I like to actually landscape with them. So down here, we've got our first snowdrops starting to come through, and they're from a very dear friend who died quite a few years ago now, and I always remember her with these snowdrops. And then further along we have some crocuses, just the very beginnings of these crocuses starting to push through. And then further afield we have the daffs. And then finally, I got some giant snowdrops. So they're not actually technically galanthus, they're a different variety entirely, but they look like snowdrops. And look how pretty they are along this little bit. And every time I walk down here, you see them, and it's sort of a reminder that it's not going to stay windy, it's not going to stay cold. Spring is on the way. I've also been checking the ponds on a regular basis for frog spawn. It's very early in the year, but when you have mild years, the frogs come out and they lay their spawn. And then you get a cold blast and it freezes it. And of course then any hope that you're going to have tadpoles disappears. So what I tend to do is I keep an eye on the ponds and the frog spawn if it appears. And if I know cold spots are coming, I just come down with a tea towel and I cover the frog spawn in a tea towel, and it just keeps off the frost. If it's going to be frozen and the water is likely to freeze, then I might even consider taking the frog spawn away. But if it's just going to be a thin frost or a thin sliver of ice, I'll just cover it over. Here is the pond that we cleared out. Now there hasn't traditionally or historically been frog spawn in here because it's always been smothered. So I'll keep an eye on it this year, and I'll keep checking that back pond. And as I say, as soon as frog spawn appears, keep an eye on it, keep checking it, and if there's a cold spot, just cover it over with a little blanket to make sure as many of those little tadpoles can develop as possible. I also had these little iris reticulata, which I didn't know what to do with. So I popped them in a pot. And you can see they're starting to come through. If you remember our feral cat saga, we had a rat explosion, so we rescued 2 feral cats. They were supposed to be kept in the barn for a couple of weeks. Well, they promptly got out. And we've seen one of them on a regular basis. The other one we haven't seen at all. So what we are now doing is building a cattery here And the idea will be that the cats will, this is a lot more secure, so we picked up these panels from one of you, and we are repurposing them to make a bit of a cattery. We can keep the cats on site, and then once they're used to being on site, we hope to feed them in the morning, get them into the cattery for the daytime so they don't catch birds, and then allow them to prowl at night for the rodents. So currently, load of panels and just trying to put together some form of aviary catio, and we've got a good one with the door here to keep our new little feline friends safe, but also the wildlife as well.